A little explanation on how to winterize your sprinklers properly. This is for the valves itself. I already have a video for the stop and waste. Alright, what your objective is, each valve, this one has 3 different types of valves. Both of these are orbit and this is a hunter valve. What your objective is to simply relieve the pressure on the system, so there's no way that so that the pipes don't freeze because they've already got pressure in them. So you're also giving the valves an area for water to escape. If you can see that, water's starting to escape right there because I opened that. Now, if you can open the solenoids, you turn them 1/4 to 1/2 turn to open them. Like this one right here. There it goes. I turned it about a 1/2 turn. Plus, this particular one has the bleeder on it. Well, maybe it doesn't. You can see the water's already starting to drain out. Oh, it's right here. It's on the side. I don't know if you can see that. It's right here where my finger's at. You gotta lift that. Basically, it's just allowing the water to escape. That's your objective. Allow the water to escape from the pipes as much as possible. So all of these have been turned. All these solenoids have been turned 1/4 to 1/2 turn. Now, these particular ones don't have an actual bleeder on them. These are just bottle top valves, so all they have is just the solenoid. So make sure you turn all the solenoids 1/4 to 1/2 turn if it can be turned. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes people have tightened them down. You're going to break them to turn them. At that point, you don't bother, because if you break the valve, you didn't save anything. And then each time you come to one of these bleeders, you want to turn that as well, about 1/4 to 1/2 turn. Now, in this particular case, move this out of the way, this one was not covered because it's inside of a shed. But there is, if you can see that, right here, this line, let me get this off here, this line runs an actual hose bib, and then there's a valve here as well, right there. Let me back it up a little bit so you can see it. Okay, so since the line comes out on this side, the solenoid's this direction, that means the water flows out of the valve this direction. That means this is the live side. So over here, at some point, there will be a connection to the main line. So what you got to do in this case is you want to turn all ball valves to not all the way on, not all the way off. You want to turn it to 1/4 turn, and then remove. If it is for a hose, you need to remove that hose so it doesn't freeze and break the system. Because, as you can probably see, water running out of there now, that water sitting in there will cause this to crack because it'll expand. That's just the seal that goes to the hose. As you can see, that water's draining out. You can open it up all the way to let it drain, but to leave it for the winter, you want to leave it at a 1/4 turn. Now again, this is a Rainbird valve, so it's actually one of the simplest. It's one of my favorites. But there will be, oh, that was even loose. That's not good. So anyhow, there's a bleeder right there. This one is a flow control. You don't want to touch that when you're winterizing. Just leave it the way it is. But your solenoid sits that way normally. Turn it to 1/4 or 1/2 turn. Then the bleeder valve, open that up. Open it up by 1/4 to 1/2 turn. You'll be able to feel the pressure release on it when you turn it. It'll just like once it lets go, it'll turn. You're good to go once it's easy to turn. Now, that being loose would have me concerned, but I can't actually see any water that was leaking, so this customer's good. Okay, on this particular one, for one thing, always open it up, check for creepy crawlies to see what's in there. Okay, on this particular one, this is very simple. They're all Rainbird valves, so 1/4 turn, 1/4 turn, 1/4 turn. Real simple. That one's done. Okay, last one for this video. Again, check for creepy crawlies. When I say that, you're basically looking for spiders so you don't get bit. Alright, this one's interesting. This one's all covered in dirt. So, what you want to do in this case is simply clear the dirt away from the solenoids that leave the dirt covering the valves. If dirt's covering the valves, while it's not an ideal solution, it will allow some buffer from the elements. It's kind of creates its own insulation. So if the dirt's already there, other than around the solenoids, just leave it. In this case, what I would do, just breaking it up with a screwdriver and removing it from the top of the valves, and just basically take these solenoids and twist them. That one's actually twisting the whole valve, so that valve's not in good shape. That one needs to be replaced. That one was simple, twisted like it's supposed to. Last one, there it goes, like it's supposed to. This particular one has probably been leaking, being that the whole thing twisted. That means that the seal along here isn't gonna seal up real good in the spring. Well, it may, after it gets water pressure on it, it may not leak. Sometimes when you apply pressure, it actually seats itself. Anyhow, that's something to check in the spring if it's on your own. If you're working on your own system, you would note that, write that down, or try to remember. You need to check that valve in the spring, make sure it's not leaking. A slow leak like that could cost you a lot. Here's a couple of extra valves I had sitting around. This is actually one I pulled out of somebody's house. It's no good, but I hung onto it for parts in case somebody needed some of these parts on one of their properties. Just an example of what you're doing here. When you twist this solenoid, water basically will feed through into this cavity and allow it to drain through the no pressure side. This is the let me show you. Solenoid basically has this it's an electromagnet that will actually draw this back when to run the system. So you're manually turning the system on by relieving the pressure on this little plunger. So anyhow, what you do here, let's put this back on the way it was. So by giving that a quarter turn, you're allowing water to be able to flow from the pressure side to the non-pressure side. This is where your laterals would come out, or where your heads would be attached to farther out in the field. And this is the main line that runs from your stop and waste to your front yard, backyard, or whatever you may have on your system. And then here's your bleeder. I'll pull that off to show you if I can. This one here, basically just a little screw, and there's a little hole there. What it does is this screw has a notch in it. Let me show you that notch. That notch right there allows the water to escape. When you turn it, it relieves the pressure on it and allows the water to escape. Okay, this is another Rainbird version. Now this is flow control. You don't want to bother with that. But that right there is the solenoid. So on this particular one, you would turn that a quarter turn to a half turn, and then there's your bleeder. So there you go. That'll come off. Now, when it comes out, I'll show you this sucker as well. Let's see if I can get it in focus. Okay, it's in focus. That's a little O-ring, so that when it's tightened down, it doesn't lose water. But there's the slot where the water is allowed to travel up those threads and have an easy escape once the pressure's been released. So put that back on there. Let's see if I can take this solenoid off too to show you. Okay, basically to take these solenoids off, you got to release that, because it's just a directional. It shows you which direction to turn it on and off on this particular one. I don't know if you can see that. There it is, on and off. So that's just basically an example. It shows you, or whatever. Just it's on there to show you which direction to turn it. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Left is on, or counterclockwise is on. All right, there's the solenoid right there. This one, the mechanism is actually inside. So what you do, as you can see right here, maybe, there it is. There's a view of it. As you can see, the hole right there. Once you relieve once you back it off a little bit, it allows water to flow around that and again run out the non-pressure side. Just allows it to drain naturally. Winterizing these, you're not going to get all the water out of them by doing this. You're just going to relieve the pressure and allow it to drain naturally.